Hello, welcome to a second chance. My name is Philip Jones. I have my co-host, Mr. Tafaro Cook, our special guest, Miss Erica. Miss Erica, how you doing today?
I'm good. Hi, guys.
Uh,
Awesome. So, Mr. Cook, go ahead. I know you want to say a few things to the audience before we go over to Miss Erica.
I just never really introduced myself. I just wanted to tell you, everybody, why I'm here. I'm Tafaro Cook. I'm a two-time kidney transplant recipient. Was playing college football, and they detected I had a rare kidney disease. Long story short, had my second transplant in '07. I'm doing great. Work with the Why Not Foundation, youth needing organ and tissue transplants, and I also started a business called Kidney Care Coaches. And what we do is we coach stage 3 to stage 5 kidney disease patients. And that's what we do. And I'm also currently authoring a book right now about dialysis. So just wanted to give everybody a brief of who I am and why am I co-hosting here. So take it away.
Awesome. Hey, Miss Cook, I appreciate you doing this with me this month. Miss Erica, the floor is yours.
The floor is mine. Well, okay. Well, where should I start? Well, to tell you guys a little bit about myself, my first touch point with organ donation was really with my uncle who needed a liver transplant. And at the time, I knew he was sick, but I didn't really know anything about transplant or why he was sick. And I just really wasn't thinking about it. No one had made a big deal about it. My grandmother has 11 or 12 brothers and sisters, and we knew that Uncle George was sick. But that was pretty much the extent of it. And at that same time, I just by chance had been researching a documentary about black market organ trade in Brazil and Mexico. And, I just thought it was so, intriguing about this black market trade. And, there were like busloads of people. There were news articles about people being found with their organs harvested in, these different countries, namely Brazil and Mexico. So I started researching that, and I was, getting deep in that. And the dots and the stars started to align because my mother at the time, she was Ford Corporate in Dearborn, and she was on the board of the International Association for Organ Donation. Mind you, we had never had a conversation about organ donation, my mother and I. And, one day I was telling her about the new film that I was working on and trying to research. And she told me, well, your uncle is waiting on a transplant. And I said, no, I didn't. And so, that was one conversation. And then it took the next conversation when I started complaining about, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is my first feature, Brazil, Mexico, all this money. How am I going to get there? And she said, well, why don't you start in your own community? Right. Hello. So it took a lot of trying to pull myself out, because a lot of times you think like for a documentary to be, exciting, it has to be in these, foreign countries, and it has to be, all these topics that are so foreign to us, and to make it more exciting and to make it more interesting so people will latch on to it. And that's how it was for me. I was looking to produce and create something that had an international appeal. And when my mother kind of brought it home to me, she said, well, why don't you just focus on your community in your backyard and just bring it home? And at that moment, I sat with me and I said, oh, right. And then it kind of, okay, I said, well, let me explore this, and then soon after my uncle passed, and then it sort of launched me further into researching and learning about, how long people wait, and, how, the numbers of African Americans waiting. And
Right.
then I started to unearth the gravity of this social justice issue that we're experiencing here in the United States, in our own community. So that's when I really started to decide, okay, let me figure out how I'm going to create a project in my uncle's honor and that will carry on his legacy and help to change that sort of, how would you call it? Um, change that scenario. Scenario being, why is it that with families, the first time we hear about organ donation, it's when someone's at the point of death? Why is it that we are only hearing about it when, he's had he had 2 transplants? This was his second failed transplant. And, none of us had been discussing it, or we didn't know anything about it. And so until he passed, that was the one thing that sort of triggered me. I don't want this to happen to other families. I don't want the first touch point with organ donation to be death. So I really thought crafting a film with characters that would speak to everyone in our community. That was my first thought. I wanted everyone to look at the film and to see themselves, if not themselves, see their brother, see their uncle, see their sister, see someone. And I didn't want it to just be a situation where someone would see someone and can explain it away easily, because my uncle, we all have an Uncle George, right? Yeah. So, he lived a fast life, back in the days. He was, cool, could have been in a Dolomite film or something, and, a lot of people could explain it away. Like, why would I donate a kidney to save someone who, pretty much tortured their body, that whole judgment. So I wanted to make sure that I had someone who not only mirrored my uncle's life and also other characters. There's another person in the film who's, the epitome of health, very similar to you, Tafaro, and to Edward, who he's a Hollywood stuntman, someone who's athletic, taking care of their bodies, eating perfectly. And, they come down with an illness, rare, that causes their organs to fail. So, and also a child. So these are all scenarios where you can't explain away a child when someone who is 4 years old ends up with kidney failure. You can't explain away, someone who's done everything right and who still ends up needing a transplant. I wanted to present scenarios to our community so they can say, you know what, that could have been my brother, like Tafaro. It's not, everyone is not a drug addict who needs a kidney, or, someone who's neglected their bodies or whatever it is, because a lot of times people can say, well, I'm not putting my name in the hat to give my organs away to, the whole human race if they're out there doing this and that. So my mission was really to not only unearth a lot of what people were experiencing, to show that element too, to be a fly on the wall and let people know what it's like to be a caregiver, what it's like to have to go to dialysis every day, what it's like to live your life on dialysis, what you can't do, what you can do. And so that was, a lot of my main goal too, was to show the behind the scenes, to pull the curtain back and show the struggle. And so I've been following these people for a little over 10 years. So the thing that shocked me, I was prepared to do the film for, 5 to 6 years, because that was the average wait time. So I said, I'm going to film everyone through transplant. Right? 5, 6 years come, still waiting. And with Verite film and with documentary, you kind of have to follow the story. And at some point, I just got really discouraged because I just didn't know how I was going to create the story arc, because usually when you're making a film, it's like you need a definite beginning, middle, and end. And what I was experiencing was no end. There was no end in sight for these patients. And then I had another aha moment when I realized, hey, guess what? This is the reality. This is the reality for our community. We wait or we die. So I said, in creating this arc and creating this film, I really began to it unfolded exactly what people were experiencing. And so at one point it was very hard to understand, how am I going to end this film? Coming to the realization of the film is it definitely ends the way it ends for most of us in a community on dialysis. Still waiting. It's not the happy ending with the transplant. That's, it's more rare that you get the transplant than it is that you end up on waiting on dialysis. So where I was not able, even with the 3 people that I chose, and they're in 3 different cities, I wanted to choose cities that had their own personalities. So that's Chicago, New Orleans, and Detroit. So each city has its own flavor and, its own sort of character in how people may or may not respond to organ donation education, how they may or may not end up on the waiting list. New Orleans is very different from Chicago. In Chicago, you have a lot of, there's a lot of deaths with, with crime and shooting and that, like things like that. So you may have a higher rate of available organs due to the crimes and the murders, so there's a different way to approach it in different cities, and a different way to come at the whole scenario of organ donation in each city. And, in New Orleans, access to healthcare, we filmed up to and through Katrina, how, something like the pandemic, something like natural disasters, even like COVID, the pandemic. What happens to people who are, suffering from chronic illnesses when these things happen?
Right.
Access to healthcare after these terrible tragedies. We were able to see that, how access to healthcare was almost non-existent for certain people in certain areas of New Orleans. And, it was hard to sort of ream it all in and try and figure out what are we going to cover. But the overall, and we're in post-production now, so as I speak, we're trying to pull these things together. But the one thing is that the different cities have different issues that lead to different outcomes. So, you may have, and that's exactly what I'm trying to show in the film. When you're in a certain location, there's certain things that you should be more aware of. And again, in New Orleans, I mean, I love New Orleans. I grew up going there. My father lived there. And I mean, fried pickles, beignets, I mean, the food, everything, so you have that element in New Orleans. I mean, and in Cleveland too. I mean, we have po' boys and French fries with like crab legs on them. I mean, I don't know, you name it. So, I mean, the element of food, of course, in Chicago, there's the pizza and all this sort of thing. So, that was the other element, how your city can also affect your access and your likelihood of ending up on the transplant list. So that speaks to prevention and really getting at the heart of, looking around in your community and trying to figure out, if something happens, where can I go? What's my access going to be like if something happened? So a lot of what we're really trying to do is just grill down to prevention and how we can keep people off of the organ donor waiting list. And at the same time, as a family member, if you need to donate, like your sister Tafaro, she or someone in your family is of sound mind and body, and because it's a long, arduous process to be, to become a viable donor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, to go through this whole process and get the green light to donate, you have to make sure that you're taking care of your body up until then. I mean, even if we come out of this, with the mindset, I need to take care of my body just in case my mother, my sister, or, you know, not even thinking about, I need to just be healthy because, I mean, if we just start thinking about it, I need to be healthy for myself, but also in the event that there's anyone in my family who may need me, I can be there for them in that way. Because, you know, if you have high blood pressure or you have any of these other things, it's going to X you out. And sadly, a lot of people in our community can't look to their family members because of that reason.
I agree with that. And my second donor was so I used to own my own fitness studio when I was on dialysis, and my second donor was a lady dear to our family and everything, and her family was close to my family. I was her personal trainer, and she comes to me one day in the gym. I'm like, all right, let's go. We about to, start, we have to start exercise, getting her session on. And she sits down and goes, hey, I see you, you're going through this, and not everybody doesn't even know what you're going through. And you're running this business, training people, and no one even knows what you're going through. And all you do is help other people. And I want to give you a kidney. That's what she told me. And I was like, you want to do what? And so her, that was a whole nother scenario. But with that being said, she ended up giving me my second kidney, Jackie. Yeah. But she stayed healthy. That was her health consciousness, and she stayed healthy. And I just want to, I had one question for you is, like you said, how do we bring health consciousness to the, just the lower income communities? Because that's where we see the challenges at. And there has to be some state of healthiness somewhere. And that's where we're not getting. And I see where you're going with that, Erica. So that's just one question I want to ask you before you can keep on going, though.
No, I could keep on going for like 3 more days, but I don't know if you want me to do that. So that's exactly what the goal of this film really is. It is to really speak to people who really, I mean, because the PSAs are out there, the statistics are always out there. You have a lot of wonderful organizations doing boots on the ground work and telling stories, and people learn in different ways. Media is one way, and story is a strong way. That's why a lot of these organizations use story. But with a film, a character-driven film that that's really educates on a different level, it speaks to the heart, and it's not so much to the head. Because a lot of times, if you want to motivate people, they have to be moved. They have to be moved in a way that's going to engage them. That isn't just, statistics. I mean, stats and all of these things, PSAs, I mean, they're abundant. You see them all the time. But the goal of creating media projects is really telling stories of people, is to really get to the heart of people and speak to them and educate in a way that's not textbook. It's really a human level of education that sort of takes it out of a textbook and really into the community, where they can see themselves and see people like them struggling, and make them think that could be me. And a lot of times you don't really get that in the 3-minute clips or a documentary where you're actually in that person's life. You see Asia from when she's 9 until now she's 24, so you live with this person for that long, and you're able to really connect to the struggle, to the pain, to the disappointments. She had a transplant, and it was botched. But here's the thing: you have to be able to connect. And I don't think that some people, you just can't connect to some of the stuff that's being put out. A lot of people have to learn from things like film. And I think film is a powerful medium that can help, that percentage, even if the PSAs and the stories that are coming out from families, donor families, or whatever it is, even if they don't connect to that, or they're not even the space for that, I hope to put this film in realms that are more accessible to many more people, and they'll be able to see that and sit with it for a little while longer and understand that, hey, this is happening and it could happen to me. So you really have to get into the heart of a person in order to make that change, or to have them even consider it, you know?
That's big. Go ahead, Phil.
Um, so my question that I had was, why do you think that we decide to wait till there is death or some major situation health wise before we do have the conversation of organ donation?
I don't think it's intentional, you know? It's just something that's not on our radar. You know, we really have a lot on our plates in many different areas. A lot of people are struggling with a lot of different things. And sometimes health is the last thing that comes to mind when we are just going about our daily lives. It gets neglected. So a
Right.
lot of times people just end up neglecting health. It's just an afterthought because they're so busy surviving, living, trying to make ends meet or whatever it may be. It's really not intentional. It just turns out that it doesn't come up until that, because people aren't going to the doctor. They're not following up with even their own health. So in that, it we really have to put more focus on making sure health is a primary focus of our community. Our community has to focus more on health prevention, and when that is at the forefront, you'll immediately start having conversations about diabetes, hypertension,
Right.
and just in the prevention of that and taking care of yourself, knowing your numbers, then you'll eventually understand, like, oh, this will prevent that. So
Right.
take your meds so you don't end up, unchecked hypertension could lead to organ failure. So just being more intentional about the care of our bodies, making
Right.
health the pinpoint of our ships. We have to make it the most important thing. Nothing else really can matter without our health. It can't be, work, this, that, and the other. Oh, let's watch the Browns. Oh, let's, tailgate. Oh, let's go. You know, have
Yeah, I think that piece is so big. I mean, I think what pulled me through everything was the health proponent of my consciousness in the first place. Of I was already, a guy in college, worked exercising and stuff. Even in college, I worked at gyms and stuff like that. So I was kind of like understanding what nutrition was about already. I was already exercising and even went into the business of exercising other people. So
Mhm.
I this what you guys are doing is awesome because it's right up my alley, and I truly believe it. Once, like Erica said, once we start the conversation, it will just lead into the right direction because
Right.
it's a natural progression of what it's supposed to be,
Mhm.
and just having the conversation will make you conscious of what's going on. Because
Mhm.
you'll be like, oh, my aunt does have high blood pressure. Oh, I didn't know it leads to that. One of my parts of my elevator speech, I always say, 1 out of 7 people in America have kidney disease. And
Mhm.
that's shocking when you look at it from 1 out of 7 of everybody. That's a lot of people. So that's letting you know. And high blood pressure, well, diabetes is the leading cause, and high blood pressure is the second. So,
Mhm.
and then we can all look at our family somewhere and go, oh, so and so has high blood pressure. Oh, so and so has, so and so don't take her medicine. And like you said, with the prevention, we can, once we tell them what can happen,
Mhm.
you even have kids saying something to their grandmother or so. Hey, grandma, you said you have high blood pressure. Do you know what's going on with that? And so that right there, just that conversation, and it's not intentional, like you said, because everything else is on our mind. Hey, let's go watch the Browns. Let's go do this. Let's go eat here. Let's go eat there. But the consciousness of health is not there. But we have all these other consciousness. And that's where we have to start at, changing the mindset and the hearts. And I love what you said about the media because I'm a movie guy and I've went to some movies where it reached your heart before it reached your head, and it's going to impact here. And once it
Mhm.
impacts here, it's going to take a life of its own in the right way. So I agree with what you said. So doing it in a big area of media, that's big. I like that.
Yeah, it's when it comes to the health factor and nutrition and exercise, I think exercise is a big. I think it's a 50-50 thing, but I think people will go to exercising before they go to healthy food. But the other thing that you got to realize is this: in low income areas, what's all around these people? You got Jack in the Box, you got McDonald's, you got KFC, you got Taco Bell, you have this and that. But then you go into other areas that may have a higher income in each household, and then you have places like Sprouts, you got Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, things of
Mhm.
that nature. If you put these things in the lower communities, you know, it'll make a lot of difference. You know,
Mhm.
a lot of people in lower incomes aren't going to go from where they live to these other grocery stores and things like that to get healthier foods because one, 9 times out of 10, they don't feel comfortable in that area.
Right.
But you have to deal with the fact that just people staring at you. You got to deal with police and things of that nature. So what the world needs to understand, these people who are making coming up with these stores and stuff, is that you have to provide for everybody. Otherwise,
Mhm.
you're gonna look up and the earth is just gonna decimate because nobody's living past the age of 45 or 50 because all they're eating is fast food and junk food. And like Jonathan said in the comments, he said junk food is cheap. The healthy foods can be expensive, and yeah, that's true. It's correct. I've noticed a big number jump from going to like so a regular store out here is like Vons or whatever. So they're like normal range when it comes to prices. But then you go somewhere like Sprouts and some Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, and it jumps $3-4 for whatever it is that you're trying to get because it's a healthier version of it maybe. So if they learn to put these stores, and I'm not saying you got to put all of them in it, but give us a chance. You
Well,
know,
I feel also though is once we set the consciousness of the people and with media and other things, you will be propelled to do what's right. And with that being said is I've been a trainer for a lot of years. I've trained people for the Arnold Classic to IFBB, all kinds of things like that. And I've had people go to Aldi's, and you can get healthy foods in other communities. You just have to take an effort. You don't have to necessarily go to Sprouts. And I understand what you're saying, Phil, because our communities are like that. But with the consciousness, if somebody has a health consciousness, you're gonna go to Aldi's and you're gonna, you might not get the foods like a Whole Food and stuff like that, but you still can go to places and get better choices. We don't have to go to the McDonald's. We can still go and with that health consciousness, it'll make you pick up a recipe book and be like, look, I got to take initiative on my own. I have to take my health into my own hands. Be your own advocate. That's one of my big P's I always talk about. And when you start taking your health into your own hands and don't play a victim, you will also start giving yourself your control back. Because a lot of times when we feel like, it's, oh, it's this, it's that, that's that victim mentality, like you're just gonna suffer. No, you have to take control and be like, look, I don't have to be acceptable to eating McDonald's, and I'm not disrespecting McDonald's, but because they have good stuff on they have good stuff also, but it's your mindset, it's your consciousness that you have to change. And I think what she's doing with the media and starting that health consciousness, you will take initiative because your consciousness is to wear Nikes, Air Jordans. Your consciousness is not to wear Bobo shoes, and that's a consciousness because you're like, look, I want to look sweet. So
right,
if your consciousness is about health, you're gonna be like, I'm gonna pick up that salad opposed to that burger because I
right.
want my health to be sweet. So that's the consciousness where I'm going. So you pick and choose your consciousness, and that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, these places they do have some good food. It's not all. They are making some kind of change. They're listening to the people, but You brought up a Aldi. We didn't get an Aldi in our neighborhood until maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And like I said, I live in Inglewood. I mean, I live in a little bit nicer part of Inglewood, but and they're starting to rebuild some stuff, especially because the stadium is there and things of that nature. But so, I'm looking forward to these things popping up because of the stadium. The demographics and stuff will change because the stadium is there. People coming in from out of towns and or just moving in general. So, but it's definitely a mindset thing. How can you push yourself to make that change? How important is it to you to make that change? Or will you wait till the last second and the doctor tells you, okay, you have heart problems, you have liver problems, you have kidney problems. You're gonna wait till then and try to make that change. It's harder then to make that change than it would be if you didn't have a problem.
And I think really is that, a lot of times it just feels so overwhelming. Where do you start? I mean, your taste buds, you have to start to adjust your taste buds. And the main thing with health and eating healthy and nutrition, you have to start step by step. You have to break it down. And the one thing that even I started was I was always worried about sugar, counting grams of sugar, but I never really thought about salt, So just going to a dietitian and having them sort of break it down for me, how much salt I should be having in a diet. So if you have a low sodium diet, 1,200 gram, what is it? Something, well, it amounts to about 600 grams of salt per meal. So if 600 breakfast, lunch, dinner, you shouldn't be eating more than that. If you start to just break it down and read your labels, eating food, just little guidelines. Don't pick up any item that has more than 140, milligrams of salt.
That's right.
Right. So if you start with that little tidbit when you're shopping, you can start there. And I mean, and so that'll just keep on, walk on past the frozen food, Mary, Clarenders, all that stuff. Just keep walking past that because, you need to have guidelines. Start small with little nuggets. If you have that one little tool, you don't have to know everything. Just start thinking, hey, salt is my focus. And for us, that really needs to be the focus. Even I didn't even realize. I was thinking, oh, I'm doing good. But, I'm killing it with the hot sauce, and it's just like, 10,000 milligrams in like a teaspoon. So, I'm like, oh, I'm eating healthy. I'm eating lentils. I've steamed cooked lentils for hours. But then when they're done, I kill it with the, the red devil. So like, so you have to understand, it's like, well, where am I going wrong? I love olives. I love pickles. It's like, you have to understand where are you getting your sodium intake and just start small. Just switch out things that are going to give you the most sodium intake. And that's what I did. I'm like, okay, I'll use red pepper flakes instead of, hot sauce. And I'll, use this instead of, no salt, but, and it rules out a lot of stuff. I'll tell you, when you start looking at the labels and thinking, oh, no more than 140 milligrams, it really makes it easier to shop because you get your list of foods, your breads, your condiments, your everything with the, that fit that guideline. And you can just go in and at your Aldi's, pick your products, get your shopping list, boom, go in, get your stuff, come out. Because when you're wandering around, you don't really know. But start with that. I think that's really where it starts small and make small changes with those tiny little guidelines about the things that are most treacherous to our diets, like salt. And you can begin to build. I mean, little small changes will go a long way. Like, don't kill your lentils with the hot sauce. I mean,
that's I think what you're saying is big. Just like when I was a trainer, people would say, what's the first things you think someone should do? Well, first, let's just start, how much water you drink. Let's start, and then, just, you can take a walk around the block. If you couldn't, afford to get a personal trainer, well, take the initiative to just walk around your neighborhood if you can. If you can't, walk up and down the steps. Move your body in some form of fashion. Just like you're saying, those little nuggets are big. Watch your salt intake. And once you start being, the challenge with, these things is it's discipline, and it's easy to do these things, and it's easy not to do them.
Oh,
That's what people forget. It's easy to be disciplined, and it's easy not to be disciplined,
right.
and that's the challenge right there. But when you do make these little small changes, even if you was okay, I'm gonna cut my salt back. I'm gonna be conscious of how much salt I'm putting in my body for a week. You will feel better. You would be so surprised how much better you feel because you're not retaining fluid and all these things. So these little things make people feel wonderful, and they happen immediately, not in a long span. Because you'll be surprised if some of the people was to cut their salt out, they'll lose weight because you're just retaining fluid. And you'll be like, hold on, I can fit these jeans. You will see these
Right.
things happen and it will be quick. But like it goes back to the discipline. It's easy to do and it's easy not to do. So I
Mhm.
feel
Yeah,
about
definitely. I want to touch on something that you said not too long ago. Um, just walking. It's about getting active.
it. Yeah.
A lot of people think, like you said, they got to go to a personal trainer or they got to go to a gym. You don't have to go. You start
Mm,
somewhere. The hardest
Mhm.
thing to do is to start.
that's it.
And so like me, I can't go in the gym. I'm on peritoneal dialysis, so I can't, do heavy weights or nothing. I pretty much walk at least, once a day. Maybe 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. You know, you all know Jonathan Church. Jonathan walks 3, 4, 5 miles just about every day.
Mhm.
And that's the power of getting a transplant. You get that energy back. You feel you need
Mm,
to do these things. He made a complete change health wise
Mhm.
and what he eats, how he functions, and things like that. So that's a great person to look at when it comes to making that transition and change of your foods and your exercising and things like that. You don't have to necessarily just go directly to the gym. You may not
right.
be ready for that. You may not be ready for a personal trainer.
Mhm.
You may need to just start, like you said, walking up the stairs, walk around your block a few times, here and there. And each, maybe every 2 or 3 days you increase, what you do. And then eventually you get to the point where you can go get your personal trainer. You can, figure out your own little workout schedule in the gym and things like that. So that was a very good point. You got to start somewhere, so always try to, find a good place to start that'll get you to where you're trying to go. Cause you can't just automatically be there. You look up, you're like, oh yeah, I want to start, pumping iron and doing something. Yeah, you might hurt yourself though. So, start
Right.
somewhere. Like I say, either walking or if you have some like lightweight things at home or something like that, start there, then transition.
And I have to say, for me, even becoming a stronger swimmer has been a thing for me. So here's the case in point. I had a fear, and I said to I kind of always explained it away like, oh, I can't afford the lessons. Oh, I can't, when you're saying now, oh, a lot of people will say, and for many years, I told myself, I can't afford a personal trainer. That's what I told myself. I mean, not a personal trainer, but I can't afford to pay for swim lessons and I don't have time. But what I've come to realize when I made the mental switch, I have a 5-year-old and I want to travel, and I've seen too many stories of, children drowning and then their
Hmm.
parents standing there watching them drown because, they can't save them. And I say all this to say is that I made the conscious decision to include that in my budget, and I'm not
Hmm.
taking it out. And
Right.
what, first of all, I was having a hard time getting to the gym, but paying for that and having that accountability, it got me in the pool once a week. Okay.
Right.
And that was, it got me there once a week, and I went once a week for a month. And then, after that month, I started going on my own. I put my son in the lessons, then I was there. And, now I'm getting up at 5 a.m. I'm there with, the real swimmers with their headphones and their watches, doing laps for 30 minutes. And, so now I've worked up to the point where I go on my own. I get up early, 5 a.m. in the pool. But I needed to start, I had to invest in myself. I said, I'm investing
Right.
in my health. I'm
Right.
investing in this life
Right.
skill because it's life or death. We're talking
That's
life or death.
it.
Swimming is a life or death skill.
Yes, it is.
And
You're
a
right.
personal trainer is the same thing. If you are not, you know, ready for the gym, I get that. But a personal trainer is so key because it's that accountability partner that you need. That's going to get you in the gym. And getting in the gym is that you need that routine. So even if you pay a personal trainer twice a month, it'll get you in the gym, and the more you go, the more comfortable you'll feel.
Right.
The more
Right.
comfortable I began to feel getting in the pool, just going in that space, because
Right.
I feel like I'm not a swimmer. I don't know how to swim. What am I doing with my hair? I swam today. I mean, that's why I got on this hat. So, so it's like, you have to sort of get over all that stuff that's keeping you
Right.
from that. It's just like my hair, this year I can't go. No, I can't be. Invest in yourself, invest in your health, because we're talking life or death here, whatever the amount is, it can't be more important than saving your life. So
I
invest in
agree.
yourself. That is, it's I know it's an expense, but cut. I'm gonna go there. How many Netflix? Let your Netflix subscription go.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Then let's
Right.
talk about it. I mean, I don't know how much the hourly rate is for personal trainers, but that's a trade-off, right?
Right.
Cut out your
Right.
Netflix subscription, get in
Well,
the
you got
gym.
to sacrifice. It's all about sacrificing something. If you want something, it has to be a sacrifice. It's something. I mean, if you want a nice body in general, you can't go out here eating crazy and eating all these things.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. You have to sacrifice some of those, salt and sugar meals that you want. You have to get in the gym if you want that body or whatever it is. And that goes with anything. If you want to finish college, you have to sacrifice and study and go to school. If you want to be healthy, you have to sacrifice, some of the bad foods and eat right. And these are exercise. These are the things. I wanted to ask you though, about the black market and organ trade. I read a book when I was on dialysis about a gentleman that was, I don't know if it was nonfiction or fiction, but the book was intriguing. And it was about a guy who was in Europe. He was like a big. He was like a drug dealer, but he was a black market organ trade, dealer. That's what he did. And I was so intrigued with the book. I can't remember what the book was named or whatever, man, but it was good. So, what did you learn about that? Can you share any information on it? Yeah.
Well, my research, it wasn't too extensive at that point. What I was doing was collecting news articles and identifying countries where I knew that there had been some reporting of it. And so with that knowledge, it was the same repeat story. Those were the two countries that I identified that one, it had happened, that there was actually a market in these countries. So that's where my research started. And two, then I started to collect articles to see how often it was happening. And, I started reading and then trying to identify people who I could then further interview to put in the film. But before you get to that point, you have to think about logistics and building out your budget and flying back and forth to Brazil. So once you look at your numbers, you kind of that doesn't it doesn't go that I didn't get that far into it. But the thing of it is that I did identify that there was a lot of occurrences in those two markets. That's what I can say. But I never got to the point where I found someone to interview to expand on those articles, because you never know. You need to talk to people. You need to really get to the heart of what's happening in the community. I remember a friend of mine, they're in Malawi, and I saw an article. It said something about vampires, and I said, what? I said, what is this vampires? People sneaking in your house, stealing your blood. And I called him, and he said, yeah, he kind of broke it down for me. But he kind of put it in perspective. So sometimes you hear something, it may be sensationalized. It may be, you can read it in an article, and a lot of times you think it's okay. Is this, to what extent is this, viable piece of press? So until you really get to speak to someone on the ground and dig into it, you can't really know. And so unfortunately, I was as intrigued as you are, but I just never got to it due to budget constraints.
Right. Okay.
All right, well, we're going to take a break real quick, go to commercial break, and we'll come back and ask Erica some more questions. Welcome back. So we're gonna go. Erica, did you want to finish your story, or was that the end of it, or because I know you kind of stopped for a minute, we started asking 1,000 questions.
No, that was it really. I mean, that was really it, more or less. Just to summarize, it was really just trying to create a project that would speak to people in a way that hadn't been done before, trying to communicate to a larger part of the population in order to reach their hearts in hope that they would see stories that would encourage them to donate, to start having those conversations. And really, that's what the whole goal of the film is. It's the type of advocacy that is through art, because I treat the film as art and as a way to communicate to an audience that may not be interested in hearing something um, packaged in a certain way. So information's packaged in different ways, and this is just another way to present the information that may touch or may move a different part of the community, of our community. So that's really my goal with the film, and hopefully that's what will happen. It will speak to a larger community through education, but through art. Educating through art is more, maybe more palatable for our community, and maybe that's what it will take to reach more people. So that's really the goal.
When does the film come out?
Hmm. Yeah, we're in. Don't give me a heart attack now, okay? Yes.
Okay,
So
I
we're in
got you.
post production now. We're in post
Okay.
production now, and we're sort of we're ringing it in. You're reaming it in. And so I really want to get it out for next year. So, get it into the festivals. Hopefully the festivals will be open. I mean, the film's had a lot of success with the virtual
Nice.
festivals.
Good.
But the goal is definitely to get it into some festivals. If not next year, run the year after. But we're working hard to get it out there.
Good. 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 That's awesome.
Yeah, I kind of know how that goes. We just earlier in the year we had a our theater team goes to a competition every February, done by the Kennedy Center, and this is a little bit newer thing for us when it comes to the virtual. So trying to record
Mhm.
things and things like that, it's a little bit it's a different thing for us. We're used to being on stage, so
Mhm.
we're used to being around each other all the time on stage. But the one thing that didn't change, we rehearsing 3 times a week for 3 hours, and then we had to record on our own, but it was a lot harder for us because you don't have people there saying in lines and things like that. You got to try to time everything on your own. And
Mhm.
so when we put both together, because we did one called The Threat and then one called George Floyd, and I mean our director and the guy that we had that did all the stuff together, it was just like, I need you to shoot it again. I need you to shoot it again. I need you to shoot it again, and then resend it to me. And I'm like, why am I doing this 8 times? And it looks the same way each time I send it to you. It takes a lot. You're looking for the right seeing the right person and things like that, and know how to put them in place.
Mhm.
So let's get outside the organ donation circle for a minute. What made you want to be start doing films and documentaries and stuff? Like, what was the original purpose and what you wanted to do?
Well, my day job, originally, my day job, I'm an attorney, and I went to law school originally with the idea of eradicating injustices in the world. And so that was my sort of core purpose I saw. But when I got into a law firm and I really understood that really, I didn't want to I couldn't make a change in an office behind the desk. I wanted to be more in I wanted to connect more with people. And I started to explore filming in law school. That was sort of my pastime. That's all I did. Blockbuster was out then. And so, I just, Friday night, I just go and get my Blockbuster my selections and go home, watch my films, and and I just blossomed into wanting to make a film, and it just went from there. That passion of writing. I took some classes in college, religion and film. I really enjoyed, the studying of symbolism in film, the art, color, all the things that how you could communicate through film, and some of the great directors and how they would place different symbols in film, and just the whole intellectual aspect of film sort of drew me in first, and really trying to watch everything and learn everything about all the different movements in film. And what I realized when I started watching documentaries, I thought, oh, this is the perfect way to marry social justice with my passion for film. And I just watched tons of documentaries about social justice issues. And then I just thought, hey, let me just start getting the skills, acquire the skills. I'm self-taught. I do everything, myself when I can't. I started out paying a crew, but as the years gone by, I've had to learn to do it all myself in order to sustain the project. But it just became obvious that this was the one way that I could sort of, flex that humanitarian muscle, as well as feel like I could contribute. And film, documentary, social justice. And what I'm learning now about myself is that I like to have a little bit more control. So while documentary is a perfect place, I also realized that in narrative, I've seen some really amazing narrative films that you're also very able to write in a social justice topic and communicate it through a narrative form. So my next step, my next projects will probably all be narrative. I have a couple other documentary shorts that I'm thinking about doing, but I know as a person, and I don't know, maybe this is this 10-year trauma that I'm coming off of, where I'm like, I don't know more documentaries, but I really want to move into the narrative space and start writing about the specific topics that move me personally, and writing them into a narrative project so I can, script, shoot, done.
Right. I, I have one question I want to ask you, and this is, and I was just listening to you when you were talking when you first came on, and you were talking about the film, and you said you followed these people for a period of time, and I was asking myself as I was listening, the question I was asking myself was, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I was like, what's the recurring theme that she's saying? And it sounded like the recurring theme you were saying was the wait, how everybody is waiting so long to get, that's what you saw. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that the recurring theme kind of the film, or what you experience, how people with organ failure, we're waiting so long? Is that one of the recurring themes? That's the kind of question I was asking, I guess.
Oh yes, absolutely. That became my realization of the reality of most patients. And quite frankly, why it took so long for the film. I mean, apart from me moving around and other issues, but personal reasons, but the actual subject itself it's a long-term process. It's about patience. It's about waiting. I mean, I even saw there was someone who also had a film about organ donation. It was called The Wait. So it's absolutely about waiting. And the one thing that I've noticed is that the ones who have become stronger advocates, who've learned how to put themselves out there, to be more vocal and communicate to the world about their needs, the wait is shorter. It doesn't change the fact that they're waiting, but they're doing all that they can to make a difference for themselves. It's about being proactive. And what I've seen is that the amount of time that you wait is heavily dependent on many factors, but the ones that you can control, you have to saddle up and dig in and do those things, and identifying what that is, how to communicate about needing a living donor, connecting to your resources, getting out there, making connections like, Phil did with Why Not Foundation. These are all the things that you have to be doing. And despite the mental state you may be in when you find yourself in a situation like this. So it's definitely about the weight, but the difference of the extent of that weight heavily relies on a person's personal proactive, the amount of proactive effort, I guess you will say, to change their situation.
I would say support system too.
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very fortunate to have, I'm the youngest out of five kids with my mom and dad out, and I had a great support system and still do, and I think, with me being supported, it allowed me to support others. And, that's how we carry it on. Phil, from when I talk to Phil personally, he sounds like he has a great support system, and it allows him to support others too. And I think that's big when we have this, strong feeling in us to want to support, help others, and I think, and it might be because we're supported also. So I just wanted to say that, but that's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
agree. The family support, groups and things like that are very important. Tafaro hears me say it every time we talk about a symposium or something. To find a way to involve, support families and things in what we're doing, because us as transplant patients, no matter what kind of transplant you've had, we need that support. We need family. We need people that can help us and lift us and get through what we're going to, because we can't do it on our own.
Right.
Even if it's, a friend that just needs to call you at 8 and 8, like, hey, you take your meds,
Right.
anything like that, is very important. I'm actually in a reverse situation just to fall to a degree. I had a great support family, but I'm the oldest. So, all my, when I started going through everything, all my siblings were, you know, elementary, one starting middle
Mm-hmm.
school and stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I know that they love me. They always tell me, and I know that I have their support in that area, which is all that I can ask for. I would never, go to them and say, hey, you want to give me a kid, nothing like that. I would never put them in that position, even though it probably, would probably automatically be, a match or something. I have a greater chance with immediate family, but um, support family is, I think, next to your faith, the most important thing. Because, like I said, that's what gets you from point A being the day that you find out that you're sick to
Mhm.
point B of you getting a transplant, point C of whatever happened in between when you get that transplant and the next step.
Mhm.
They're a major part in who we are and what we do. And you also said something about being proactive. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I was younger, I got diagnosed at 4, and my doctor used to
Mhm.
always tell me, eat what you want, right? And I'm a kid, and kids gonna eat what they want regardless. So,
Right.
but it took for my dad to look at me. He said, "Dude, you need to learn how to be proactive about your health." And yeah, at that time, like I was still a little bit young, I'm going, "What on God's green earth are you talking about?" And he's like, "You have to learn how to start talking to these doctors. You have to learn how to start talking to these nurses. You have to fight
Mhm.
for yourself because nobody else can do it for you."
Mhm.
And to a degree, it's true. If you can have other people that can fight for you, but unless they see that you're willing to fight for yourself, they're not going to do it. Everybody's going to lay themselves out on the line, and doing extras and things like that, and they don't even feel like you're fighting for yourself, to get a kidney or get better treatment or have better doctors or whatever.
Mhm.
So that's just my opinion. So, Ms. Cook, you got anything else?
No, I don't have any more questions, Erica. It was wonderful hearing your story and knowing who you are and what you're about. And I am definitely looking forward to the movie. I'm like I said, I'm gonna sit, get my popcorn and get ready. It's
Right.
gonna be less salt on it, okay? It won't be too much salt on it,
Right,
but I
Just
definitely
a
will
little
be
bit of butter, a
all
little bit of
for it.
salt,
Yeah, just a little bit of butter. I ain't
just a
mad
little
at
bit.
that. Everything in moderation. We can
right,
do it. We can do a little bit, But
right.
I want to get. Hey, I want to see this movie. I'm really really intrigued. I'm looking forward to this. This is awesome.
Well,
Take a
thank you
sliver
guys
of
so much.
butter, take a slither of butter and go melt it in a microwave and slowly drip it so it can try to get on all the popcorn.
Right, right.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I really enjoy talking to you guys. I love doing things like this because, after all this time, it's hard to keep the momentum up, and, getting this type of energy out there and engaging with other people who are interested in this topic really help fuel me and help me to work harder to get it out there. So this is very very helpful for me, but in hindsight it's really for everyone else. So this whole platform, thank you for this platform. It's absolutely for helping other people, and you're definitely helping me in more ways than one by having me on this show. So I really appreciate you guys. And Tafaro, I would love for you to come. You're undoubtedly a change maker as well. I'd love to hear more about
Thank you.
your organization, because
Sure.
I was about to interview you before we started this.
Hey,
So,
I'll definitely get you. Get your email, and I'll hit you up so we can chat for sure.
oh, sure, for sure, because I'd really love for people to know who you are, the other
Okay.
side of Second Chance, and
Right.
we're already, why not is already a staple, the staple in the Change Maker series. So we just gonna keep the ball rolling. We got to get
That's
Tafaro
what's up.
on. So,
Okay. Thank you. Oh yeah, I would love to talk and tell you about Tafaro's little bit of story. It's it's an intriguing story, but I'm really thankful for the story. How about that? So
mhm.
Yeah, Mr. Cook is the inspiration. I mean, I look up to him a lot. I see him as
thank you.
a bigger, older brother.
Thank
We
you.
about like that far apart in age a little bit, just playing. But no, when I got in, why not? That was one of the first persons that kind of helped me along in getting in this was Mr. Cook as well as Edward and Wills and Victoria, and so our team has blessed me a lot since I've been a part of Why Not. Um, I've found another part of myself, another family that I can add to my life. So
Right.
definitely grateful for that. Erica, um, I'm extremely grateful for you to come on today to tell us about your story and
My
how
pleasure.
you decided to step up and advocate for organ donations. I
Right.
mean, it's something
Right.
that definitely something that we need, and I'm like the far. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I might go pop mine now and go and just sit there and just eat and like, okay, any minute now, any minute.
Right.
Right, right.
Right. Right.
But no, we definitely, especially when it comes back out, would love to have you come back on.
Oh, for sure.
And like I said, we're definitely wow. People hitting the comments up talking about they can't wait either, and so it's definitely something that's on people's minds. And that was outside of your story was the other part to it, so they would know that it's coming, and what you're doing to help these other transplant patients as well, and also the pre transplant patients also. Um, Myself and Tafara look forward to seeing you next week. We're not gonna tell the people why yet. Just let you pop up and just say, "Hey, y'all saw me last week." So,
Right.
um, but again, thank you very much. Great, very, very grateful, Mr. Cook. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you guys.
so, I usually end like this. What's the one thing you want the viewers to take from this interview?
The one thing I'd love for people to take from the interview is really to start thinking more about your body as your ticket to wealth, and wealth being more
Mhm.
than just, money. You have to really think about your body as a way to help serve, And by protecting your body, protecting your system, and being the best version of yourself, health wise, mental wise as well, you then can, that's how you can serve. So when you wake up every day and you ask yourself how you can serve, being in the best health is the best way to do that. And when that circles around to organ donation, making sure you can be a viable donor for a family member, keeping yourself off the organ donor waiting list. And that's, it all starts with making the decision to treat your body as your ticket to wealth. And that's the one thing that I want everyone to do, is to, I know it's cliche, but treat your body as your temple, you know, and protect your system. And that's really just it. It's, I mean, it's easier said than done. I know I'm probably preaching to many people who's like, oh yeah. But that's my message. You know, if you have to rinse and repeat it every single day, put it on your boards, put it on your walls. But you know, your health has got to be your ticket to whatever it is you want to do, and take it seriously.
Right.
Well, appreciate you both. We will be back next Sunday at the regular time, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, unless, of course, we have a change. In that case, I'll let you guys know. Have a great week. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Erica.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
You too.